Look, I can't help but think that now might be a good time for a little fire and ice.
Do not know it's never a good time for fire and ice.
What happens when you mix fire and ice?
Warm water, baby.
It's bubbling, baby. Warm water! Warm water!
It is Saturday morning. We are at Undisputed Craft House. Mike Tipton, Brandon, the Iceman, Cohn. Together we are fire and ice. I almost lost my breath right there, Brandon. That doesn't happen very often.
That's what I do to people when I'm around them.
You
Take their breath away.
You took my breath away, 100%.
That is exactly what happened. Phenomenal. Yeah, can I say?
All right. So here we are, Undisputed Craft House, 1881 Saul, Kleinfeld. Come on out here, Thick Boy Pies Saturdays, $15 for each of the Thick Boy Pies. Of course, you know what my favorite is already, Brandon, that chili con queso pie.
Oh, man, that's good. Better than the one I ordered last week.
Apparently, they have some of the best fried pickles in the world, but
I can't ever try them because you can't ever get them.
You can get them. I'm not going to eat them.
Oh, great. Let me just eat them all and be a Hazer by myself, right?
That's a new one.
Yiddish for pig.
Okay, a Hazer.
Chazer. C-H-A-Z-Z-E-R.
Hazer. Okay.
Well, yes, I'll eat all the fried pickles. I'll just stuff them in my pockets for later. It's okay. I got a new appetizer for you today I thought about.
Oh, okay, so we're going to try a new appetizer here. Currently, we are watching TCU dominate Oklahoma, which I was not ready for. I was not mentally prepared for this part of the game, Brandon. Later on today, we're going to have the one and only Babe Laufenberg from the Dallas Cowboys radio broadcast joining us as well. Brandon was with him last week over at the University of Texas El Paso as they had their big upset of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Are they playing today?
They are. They're at Charlotte.
Oh, that's right.
And
they are.
They made the schlep yesterday, and they had some nasty weather from the hurricane, the remnants of the hurricane. And luckily, today it's supposed to be much nicer. And luckily, they got in yesterday without any issues. So, yes, let's see if they could get rid of that horrible streak of playing on the East Coast.
If there's ever a time,
it's now
for you to make history.
Yes.
Break the chains, as they say.
Yes.
This would be the time.
I would think so.
What is their East Coast record? Because I know they've never won, but it's like 0 and like 50 something.
It's a horrid record. Yes, it's a very, very bad record. They've come close. I want to say, I don't know if it was a few years ago when they played at FAU, but despite how bad some of the teams are on the East Coast, and none of them are usually anything to write home about, they still somehow have this bad mental block about playing anywhere east of the Mississippi, it seems like.
Anywhere east of El Paso,
right?
West of El Paso, north of El Paso.
Out of El Paso, south of in Canada. It doesn't matter where they would play, they would still lose, right? Perhaps.
But you know what, Brandon? I'm going to be bold. A couple of weeks ago, whenever our guy Jonathan Hood from up in Chicago, ESPN 1000, the college football tailgate, he asked us what our opinion was, whether he should bet UTEP to cover, whether he should do all this. He actually took my advice and put a little bit of money on UTEP to lose and a lot of money on UTEP to win.
Okay, good.
And he was able to make some money back.
Some
with
shekels,
UTEP
good, because they were a huge underdog last week, and
this was the New Mexico game.
Oh, the New Mexico. Okay, and that was another game they lost, of course. Unfortunately,
but I believe they covered. I don't know what it was, but Hood made some money off of them.
You look like a friggin' genius now.
Yeah, because that's what you do. You just fade UTEP the entire time. That's all you do. Fade UTEP, take everybody and the points over UTEP. It's the same thing with the Eagles, right? Like the Eagles catching lightning in a bottle. Horrible team, horrible fan base, shitty city. Just everything about it is just disgusting.
This guy doesn't like you anymore.
It's bird shit green. It's like all their colors. Like you can walk outside right now and see what a bunch of pigeons are doing, and it's the Philadelphia Eagles.
I call it chicken shit green.
Yeah, so there it is. So it's a horrible, horrible fan base. Stephen Michael Puga's here, so I'm just dumping all over him while I have the opportunity to do so.
It's pretty funny. That's hilarious, man. That is really...
He can't even defend himself. Like he just walked into a buzzsaw.
He's all, I agree. He agrees with you just to make it easy.
Okay, so Radio Network. Let's talk a little bit about what I saw on Thursday Night Football. I was super prisoner of the moment. Because I was like, how could the Miami Dolphins, how could the NFL, I even tweeted about it, was like, how can they allow this guy to go out there? It was a clear concussion. He went through all these things. My God, the NFL is messing up over and over again when it comes to this. I'm a couple of days removed now, and it was terrifying. I mean, just seeing him, seize up, the way that he stumbled, wasn't able to get his legs under him on Sunday after, playing in 9,000 degrees of temperature in that terrible game that they played against Buffalo and pulled out. but you saw his hand seize up, and you thought to yourself, I thought at least, I was like, there's a real possibility they killed this guy.
Yep.
So that's what it looked like. What were your initial thoughts on that, Brandon, and have they changed since, kind of being a little more removed?
Well, I thought it was pathetic. And I mean, the reason it's pathetic is because when anybody is not 100%, there's no reason why they should be in there. I mean, you have a quite a capable backup in Bridgewater. I mean, guy that's won and that really, to me, got a terrible break, in Minnesota, or else could have been a successful starter for years. But bottom line is that if anybody is showing any symptoms of not being 100%, then you're certainly just jeopardizing their health and their well-being for the better of the program or the team. And that's not the way things are supposed to be run. I mean, look, the NFL is adamant about safety, or are they? Or, and that's the thing, is they are, but they aren't. I mean, so it's like a double-edged sword. And to me, it's like, again, you want people to beat the crap out of each other. You want people to be gladiators. You want them to be rough and tough, because that's why you and I are appeal. That's the appeal for the game. But then you want to make it safe. But there's really no way to make it safe. You could penalize everybody. You could do everything. You could continue to try to, call these ticky-tack calls, leading with the crown, the helmet, whatever. It's not a safe game. And most of the people playing will tell you they're with the rest of their lives, including unfortunate neurotrauma, if I said that right, with their brains. It's okay. Bottom line is that it was pathetic, but again, it's about winning. And I get what Miami's going through, but at the same time, the guy had no business being in there, and you're jeopardizing his health. He's only 24 years old, and ultimately the future of him as your starter. And he's a damn good I think he's a decent quarterback.
Currently, right now, Ole Miss beating Kentucky 19-12. Just your typical 19-12 score. I kind of had the same thought process that you had, Brandon. Like, starting off with that whole thing, like, it was horrible. I think I even woke up the next morning, like, just angry about, like, how could the Miami Dolphins, how could the NFL do that? And the more removed I got, the more I realized independent doctors said he didn't have a concussion. I don't know how independent they are. I'm not going to be so nihilistic to think that, okay, the NFL is paying these guys who have the real opportunity of losing their license if they are wrong, right? Chris Nowitzki, a former WWE wrestler, former football player in college, decided to come out and say, hey, if this is an actual, second trauma to the brain that we all think it is, then Tua needs to sue, he needs to do this, and he would be well within his right to do so. But if Tua's saying he's okay, the doctors are saying he's okay, the team is saying he's okay, then he's okay. If he's not out there saying, I can't play this game, if there's no one stopping him from saying that we cannot have you play this game, then clearly he's okay. We know, with armed with hindsight and what we saw on Sunday and what we saw on Thursday,
sure,
that, okay, maybe he wasn't. But if everyone's saying, yeah, he's cleared, look at what happened with what we saw. We all thought, okay, he's concussed. Like, he is bad. We were worried about him being able to walk again.
Right.
He left the hospital before the game was over.
And traveled back with the team.
Because doctors said in Cincinnati, these aren't even the Miami Dolphins doctors. These are, independent doctors in Cincinnati. He doesn't have a concussion. He's okay. He's willing, or he's able to fly with the team. Because if you have a concussion, you can't make that trip.
Right. You got to stay there overnight for observations.
It was a horrible thing for us to see. I can't explain what happened if there's not a concussion there. It was just, unfortunately, one of those parts of the game. Well, and I don't like what I'm hearing from all these people talking about, okay, well, the NFL's messed up. The Dolphins are messed up. These doctors are messed up. If it's all these people, then it's not what we as, like, the observers think it are. None of us have a degree.
No, of course not.
We're
armchair quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, I get it from the perspective of they want to go with the guy that's going to give them the best chance to win. Okay, but obviously it goes without saying, and hindsight's 2020, that it's a short week. You're playing on a Thursday. The guy just, whether he says he's okay, you truly are the only ones that know whether or not he's ready to go. And I mean, based off what occurred the previous Sunday, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize the guy wasn't ready. Give him the extra week. And throw in Bridgewater, see what happens. I know it's a good game at Cincy. You're 3-0, blah 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 blah. But he got hurt in the Buffalo game, and I mean, he was questionable all week, and just despite what anybody says to me, a lot of it's BS, and it really is, because it's all about perspectives. It's all about, they tell you what you want to hear. Oh, it's their team doctors. Oh, it's that organization. Oh, well, these doctors say he's just fine. I mean, again, let me ask you: aren't there plenty of quacks out there that you can't trust their opinion, whatever? I mean, who knows what's really going on and what's really happening. We just know the surface and what everybody's telling us. That's it.
But a level 1 trauma center in the city of Cincinnati that has no stake in the game at all, letting you know that there's nothing wrong,
according to them. But again, I mean,
it's a level 1 trauma
and I'm saying that, look, they know more than I do. I mean, I know not much about trauma other than it's not a good thing. But again, he was carted off the field for a reason, man. I mean, I don't know what else to say other than I am no physician. Mm-hmm. But I mean, when I see that, I'm just saying I'm going to call a spade a spade. That's all. Why else was he carted off the field? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, precautions, right? Like that would
of course.
have to be.
I mean, but it's serious enough to be carted off the field.
You would have to be like the most heartless individual to look at that, like the way his body seized up, to not be like, oh God, and worry about this guy. Yeah,
and I mean,
I feel like even Puga at one point had to be like, oh yeah, like I was kind of terrifying what you saw.
And thank God, they say he's okay, and it seems like he will be. I mean, because it could have been so much more worse, especially when you're dealing with head and neck injuries in general. But again, with that being said, it's just to me unacceptable in the respect that if there's any doubt or any cloud of hesitation there, you just need to be a little overly cautious despite your record. It's still early in the year. Everybody's losing, whatever. I mean, it's even the Buffalo has a loss. I mean, you're going to lose some games, okay? It's not how you play now. It's how you play in December and January that really counts. We all know this. But long story short, again, the NFL, they want to have the pity song about how we need to take care of business and keep everybody healthy. But, again, it's football, man. It's a dangerous game. Other than MMA, boxing, hockey, to me, it's the most dangerous game in the world. And that going in, there's calculated risks.
Like, other than these other 12 sports, it's the most dangerous game.
No, but I mean, it is the most dangerous game. I mean, yes, I get it. But other than you and I beating the crap out of each other in boxing, like direct hitting, it's just, my goodness, does it take a toll on the body? I mean, you don't have to be a freaking genius to know that.
And that's the thing, right? It's like I feel like with Tua, because of all the scrutiny that he got, and I feel like this is 100% like a him decision, right? Like, I'm going to be in this game.
I mean, he wants to go in.
Because I have to prove who I am to all these people, because everyone has doubted me over the last X amount of years I've been in the NFL. At a certain point, like, you're right, you got to say the player from themselves. You got to be able to be like, hey, sit this one out. We've got Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater is always going to be one of those guys to me that's like the what if happened, right? Because we all saw how bad that knee injury was. I think it was 2 years that he had to miss before he finally, becomes a backup in New Orleans or whatever it is. Thought that he was going to be the guy to take over for Drew Brees. Drew Brees stays on a little too long. Ultimately gives the reins over to Jameis Winston of all the people. Mm-hmm. And you just kind of sit there and think about like the what if with Teddy Bridgewater, because the dude's good.
Very good.
It's just now past what he's able to do in like that window that he had.
What he was years ago, sure.
But if you're the Dolphins, you see an opportunity to go 4-0 on the season. That's a stranglehold in a lot of divisions. Mm-hmm. And a chance to go to the playoffs. You're a team that hasn't had a lot of playoff success. For all the crap people say about the Cowboys, the Dolphins have been to the playoffs twice since the year 2000. They haven't won a game since then.
Crazy. You don't think about it like that too,
because you think of like the old Dan Marino Dolphins perennially in the playoffs and all that stuff. The Dolphins just aren't like the normal contender that we think they are.
Sure.
So it'd be cool for them to be there. So I totally understand.
I mean, it's nice to be 3-0. It's nice to be looked upon as a team that made a lot of offseason acquisitions, and you have that opportunity to maybe even win a Super Bowl. I mean, if you get out at the right time. And I'm not taking it away from any of that, but with that being said, again, you have to be the advocate for that player, because every player is going to want to go in no matter what. That's called being a football player or being an athlete. You're never too injured to go in and play.
Later on in the show, we'll be joined by Babe Laufenberg. Right now, we are at Undisputed Craft House, 1881 Saul Kleinfeld. On the corner of Saul Kleinfeld and Montwood, they got thick boy pies today, $15 each. Get that chili con queso pie. What was the one that we had last week, Brandon?
It was like this one with like homemade Alfredo sauce, chicken, bacon, and I don't have the menu with me, but look, I didn't hate it. Certainly if you like Alfredo sauce,
was good. It was good.
Great. It's phenomenal. But we decided we're going to opt to make your own now.
Yes,
that's the shtick we're going to do. But if you like Alfredo sauce and you like chicken Alfredo, oh gosh, with the bacon and the green pepper, it's pretty damn good. I mean, my first bite, I was like, this is good. You're like, well, the Alfredo.
I'm a very so this is my thing.
Pasta.
Right? Like a lot of the times you cannot take what I say. You have to take it with a grain of salt, because I'm the perennial if I don't order the thing that I'm normally used to ordering, I do not like what I ordered.
I noticed.
I am a creature of habit. I will eat the same thing at the same, like any restaurant over and over and over.
Yes, I know. I've been there with you. I've eaten greases, but the same place with you before. I know. I see what you do.
I've seen you stuff your face.
Not me, though. I like to mix it up. I'm looking at the menu online every week.
The very eclectic palate of Brandon the Iceman Cohn.
I love you. You're my buddy.
All right, so I wanted to give you a stat, like leading up to our guy, Babe Laufenberg from the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network joining us. I wanted to give you this stat.
Mm-hmm.
Cooper Rush is now the only quarterback in the history of the NFL to, in his first 3 games, throw for over 200 yards, have a passer rating over 90, and win the game. The only quarterback in the history of the NFL to do that. Cooper Rush.
It's impressive.
You look at what the Dallas Cowboys have right now.
Yep.
I said last week half-heartedly that there was a quarterback controversy. I feel like there kind of is.
Well, I mean, and Babel addressed this because he does, the color analyst. He's a color analyst for the team. He's with the team, travels with them all the time. But here's the thing that people need to understand, and I explain this
Jerry
to people
left the
all
door
the time.
open.
I mean, momentum's a hell of a thing,
Yep.
okay? And if you don't believe me, just ask Tony Romo and then Drew Bledsoe before him, okay? Or I mean, it doesn't matter how much the guy's getting paid. It doesn't matter how much of a stud they are. Momentum is a hell of a thing. And when you get it, you don't want to let it go. So, I mean, look, I think Dak is going to come back. But with that said, I mean, they just need Cooper Rush to be a good game manager, which is exactly what he's been doing.
I don't think he's been a game manager. I think he's been actually doing pretty well.
He's been. I mean, look, you played New York. To me, I think New York is fool's gold. But the big win to me was Cincinnati. That was a good win.
I think Cincinnati. I think both those teams are fool's gold.
Well, I mean, it could possibly, but their defense to me is just amazing. I mean, if that defense continues to improve, which I see them doing, I say the sky is. I never get too excited for this team because it's Dallas. But the point is that with that type of a defense and you're putting that much pressure on the quarterback, a lot can be accomplished with that type of a secondary. So with that said, if Cooper Rush keeps playing very well, then let's say it's 3 weeks from now, 2 weeks from now, whatever. I mean, there's always the what if we should possibly do. Absolutely. I won't disagree there.
So the question now is, you've heard the rumblings of Dak saying, I want to come back. Like, I need to come back. I feel like he feels the pressure of I need to be here because I took somebody's job. My job can get taken in a heartbeat, right?
Sure.
With that type of injury, because it is to the thumb on the throwing hand.
Big injury.
You cannot rush that because I feel like if you do come back, you can't grip the ball the way you're supposed to. Yeah. Or if it gets hit again, like you have there's so much what if, right?
Yeah.
If Cooper Rush has been serviceable, you've got Washington this week. There's no need to rush Dak back for that. And, other than the Eagles, I don't think there's really a team that you can say this is the best team in the NFC East, right?
No, absolutely
and
not.
To me, like even the Eagles, I think you've got to have some question marks there because they've beaten some, suspect teams.
Yeah.
They feasted on what? Washington and who the Eagles won against, Puga? Who have the Eagles played? Yeah, so
okay,
the line,
so they've beaten not some great teams so far. Let's see what happens in 2 weeks when they play Dallas on Sunday Night Football.
Oh,
that's going to be huge. Were you really? You're going to Lincoln's Financial Field? Wow, that's awesome.
Stephen Michael Puga going to Philadelphia, that dumpster,
make sure
to go watch the Philadelphia Eagles.
Make sure you get a good cheesesteak for us.
You'll have 4.
Yeah, and then some.
So I see that Babe Laufenberg has joined us down here, but I don't think he has his camera on. Brandon, should we wait to bring him in?
Yeah, we want to make. I'll tell him. I'll text him. Tell him to.
Excellent.
So this is not just a radio show; it's also streamed.
But looking at like the Dallas Cowboys, looking at the schedule that they've got coming up, right? If they can get hot, if they can win this game against Washington, if they can beat Philadelphia, and if Philadelphia continues to win and then loses that game, you are tied at the top of the division right there.
Sure.
Right? In a very winnable division, because to me, there's not a team that has separated itself. Dallas's defense, I had my questions. I said that I didn't think that the defense would be as good as they were last year. And Micah Parsons is making me eat every damn word I've ever said negatively about my Dallas Cowboys.
I'll tell you what, impressive. That's all I have to say. I mean,
that kid is a monster.
A force to be reckoned with.
There was a lineman for the Giants that he just dropped his shoulder into, Brandon, and threw an offensive lineman across the field with just his shoulder. Then later on in the game, does the exact same thing to a running back as he gets to Daniel Jones and just knocks him to the ground. He only had 1 sack in that game, 1 tackle in that game. but his presence was felt throughout the entire game, just getting there. DeMarcus Lawrence, I believe, had 3 sacks during that game as well.
Yep. And that, to me, you look at some of the better Cowboys teams within the last 20 years, teams that have actually had a legitimate shot of going to the Super Bowl, winning the Super Bowl, and their big Achilles heel was always usually on defense. It was the inability of being able to rush the passer. And if you can't get to the quarterback, you will be destined to lose, especially in this game. That's not what they have this year, because this year they have the ability to put pressure. And look at how much they pressured Jones last week. I mean, so many pressures, so many sacks, great secondary, all of the above. And that, to me, spells a damn good defense.
How good was that interception from Trayvon Diggs where it just bounced right on his hand? And like all it did was just hit his pinky finger.
Yeah, that was definitely a pick 6.
It should have. I mean,
well, he gambled and he lost, unfortunately,
Yeah. So in just a few minutes, we'll be joined by, once again, Babe Laufenberg from the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network. He will be on the call. Color analyst on the call.
Well, I mean, he's calling the color,
Yeah. For the Dallas Cowboys as they take on the Washington Commanders. I still cannot get used to that name.
Yeah, it's a terrible name. It's the worst name in the football. I'm not a big fan of the Commanders. They could have come up with a much better name. You and I could have come up with a better name.
Christian Davila saying, as a Giants fan, the Cowboys defense was great. And it was. That was absolutely.
You're just trying to get him. What do you suggest I tell him? We're just trying to, we're trying to get, let's see here. Yeah, because Babes never uses.
So it should just be in the settings. There's like a little settings thing there.
So I'll just tell him the option is in the settings?
Yeah, the options for the camera should be in the settings.
He says to call him. Are we able? I don't know if we're able to call him.
Yeah, I don't have that cable with me right now, so I would not be able to call him. Well, either way, even if we just have if he's not there, if we just get like his voice, I'm fine with that too. Yeah. But it would be like in the little StreamYard settings that you turn the phone over to the side. It kind of walks you through. Babe Ruth, or not Babe Ruth. Aaron Judge, the new Babe Ruth for the New York Yankees. At the plate right now as the Yankees keep cutting into college football programming. This is something that I heard and I saw a lot of on Twitter, Brandon, where people were getting upset that ESPN was cutting into Yankees games during college football. And as you can tell, so many people are into this Ole Miss and Kentucky game. I guess it's a matchup of ranked teams. But you got a guy who's chasing a part of history right here, a major part of baseball history. I'm not one of these people that's going to go around saying that, Roger Maris's 61 home runs is the record for home runs.
There he is. But
I will say that what Aaron Judge is doing is utterly fantastic. We'll get back on that in just a second here. But right now we are joined by Babe Laufenberg from the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network. Babe, thank you so much for joining us here on Fire and Ice with Mike Tipton and Brandon Cohn.
Well, thank you, and I apologize. Technology is getting the best of me because I can see you guys, but apparently you can't see me.
Tip, tell him how to fix it. Tip here is a genius with this kind of stuff.
Well, this is the thing. Like it should be like just on the phone, like under where it has our box. So you see like the little settings icon, you click in there, and it should give you access to your camera. But either way, it's all good. I think we just wanted to hear your voice. Anyway.
We want to hear your voice,
We know you're such a good-looking guy that we don't want you to overshadow us.
There he is. There he is. We get to see him finally. That's awesome.
All I needed was Tip to guide me through here.
I told you. That's why I have Tip here. I'd get lost without him, Babe.
I don't need to go to Geek Squad or any of that stuff. Mike, send me your cell number so anytime I have computer issues, I can get with you.
100%. You can get that in any chance.
I'll bring this up just a shade here. How we doing, guys?
Hey, fantastic, Babe. Thanks for joining us today. And certainly, I'm going to start by asking you, Tip and I have been talking about this, your thoughts on how Cooper Rush's performance has been. He's, 2-0 as the Cowboys starter. And, against Washington this week, I think it could be another big game for him. How do you think he's playing so far in lieu of Dak there?
Yeah, 2-0 and 3-0 overall. If you want to go back to the Minnesota game last year, of course. And matter of fact, he will become, if they win tomorrow, he will become the first Cowboys quarterback to start his career 4-0. And Jason Garrett, believe it or not, and Roger Staubach are the only two Cowboys quarterbacks to begin their careers 3-0, but they lost in their fourth game. So Cooper Rush will be the answer to a trivia question one day, and no one will get it.
I think a lot of people would also not get the second part of that, first equation of who are the two Cowboys quarterbacks to go 3-0. You can guess Staubach. I don't think anyone's going Jason Garrett.
Right. And I think Troy has got enough, publicity, if you will, about his 0-11 start, his rookie year. People are familiar with how bad that team was and the struggle that was that rookie year. So I don't think anybody would say, gosh, anybody that follows the Cowboys anyway would say, boy, didn't Troy Aikman win his first 3 games?
Well, so, Babe, what would be the way that the Dallas Cowboys can get Cooper Rush that 4th win, that 4th straight, career-starting win against this Washington Commanders team? I feel like this team is ripe for the picking, but I also feel like sometimes with what we've seen from the Cowboys, they'll drop down and not play their best game against a team like this.
Sure.
Well, I do think if they just kind of do the same things, try to run the football effectively, Cooper Rush has done an excellent job of I never like the term bus driver or manage the game, but, he hasn't turned the ball over. He's checked into a lot of good plays for him. 3rd and 12, where they ran Zeke last week against New York Giants and they picked it up, was probably one of those plays, although we all would have been, let's face it, tomorrow, if they run the ball in 3rd and 12 and Zeke gets stuffed or Tony Pollard gets stuffed, everybody's going to say, you run the ball on 3rd and 12, but that's what they did against the Giants, but they converted it. And I always go back to the great, now late, Ernie Zampese, the former Cowboys coordinator and longtime architect of Eric Coryell with the San Diego Chargers. But he always used to say, babe, you have to understand one thing as a play caller. If the play works, it's a good call. If the play doesn't work, it's a bad call. And you just got to accept it and move on.
So I got to ask you, let's say Cooper Rush keeps winning. Is there any way at all, Babe, that there's a
No, I'm not even going to let you finish.
Okay. See, Tip, he thinks you're a putz. Well, I'm going to say I think you're a putz.
So what you're saying is I shouldn't go out and buy my Cooper Rush jersey right now.
No, I like Cooper, and I would go buy it. And he was born on not the same day in terms of the year, obviously, but he was born on the same day as Troy Aikman. So pretty good pedigree right there, right? But no, you can buy your Cooper Rush jersey. Just be prepared that Dak Prescott will be the starter whenever it is that he comes back.
Okay, so now we've kind of settled that debate. I need to go and delete all the tweets that I said that there might be a quarterback controversy brewing in Dallas, because I feel like there's not. How is Dak looking? Because that's one of the most important things, is being able to have that thumb gripping the ball in order to throw it as a quarterback. How is he looking to you? And what are these? Is there any truth to the rumblings out there that he wants to come back like this week or next week to try to just get back into the groove of things?
Well, his thumb is going to dictate when he comes back and nothing else. I couldn't tell you when he's coming back. The doctors couldn't tell you when he's coming back. Mike McCarthy can't tell you. And Dak couldn't tell you that until he can spin a football with that thumb, he's not coming back. He hasn't thrown yet. So, he threw a couple of lob passes the other day in practice or whatnot. But until that thumb, the swelling goes down and he's able to grip a football, it's all just conjecture as to when he'll come back. I would doubt very seriously if he hasn't picked up the football basically to this day. I doubt he'd be back ready to go against the Rams. And it's interesting, too, because there's going to be a little build-up process also for just getting his arm strength back. It's not like an ankle injury, let's say, where you can still throw the ball from a stationary position or from your knee or whatnot and keep your arm stretched out. But, he's going to have a 4-week layoff of picking up a football. And we all know he had the shoulder injury last year in training camp just from stress. So that's another part of the equation that people really aren't factoring in. Just because tomorrow he is able to grip a football, if that were the case, doesn't mean he's necessarily ready to go out and throw 40 passes in a game.
You were a former NFL quarterback, so I think you would definitely be one of the most appropriate people to ask this particular question. But Tua Tagovailoa the other night, what were your thoughts on him playing, and then, of course, a concussion? And, should he have been in there? And, other than that, did the Dolphins handle that situation appropriately, in your opinion?
Really, really hard for me to talk about a team where I have no connection or no information other than what you guys have and what fans saw. And I guess what we saw the previous Sunday when, he was kind of staggered a little bit. They do have protocols in place. Were the two questions: were the protocols followed? And if they were, do you have to come up with a new set of protocols for the concussion? situation. But again, I'm on the outside looking in, on the way outside looking in. So for me to speculate on whether he should or shouldn't play, I'm assuming that, the Miami Dolphins, those doctors, they had his best interests at heart. And no doctor, I don't think, whether you're a team affiliated doctor or otherwise, is going to go out knowingly putting a guy at risk. Now, we all know every time you go on the field, you're at risk, right, for whatever. And it can happen in one play. But, I'm obviously there's going to be an investigation. The NFLPA has kind of filed some work to get this thing started. The NFL wants to get to the bottom of it too, because let's face it, it doesn't look good for the league to have happen what happened Thursday if, and again, I say if, he had that condition the previous Sunday and they kind of ramrodded through it. So we'll see. We'll find out in time, but looks like, knock wood, he's going to be okay.
Sure.
I would love to hear Brandon say Tua Tagovailoa one more time.
Oh, come on. I just said Tua. How about that? I'll make you happy. I forgot. I may have mispronounced his last name. Okay. Is that what you're trying to say?
All right, babe. So one of the questions that the Dallas Cowboys had coming into the season was whenever Tyron Smith went down with that injury. They signed Jason Peters, and there was still a little bit of questions there, but we saw the impact that Jason Peters was able to have just right off the bat last week, creating big holes for both Pollard and Zeke to run through. What is this offensive line going to look like as soon as Tyron Smith comes back? Because you were talking about two guys that are dominant players.
Well, there are two guys that are going to come back, one sooner than the other, but keep in mind, Connor McGovern was the starting left guard. He was injured, obviously, on the first series against Tampa Bay. That opened the door for Matt Farniak to get in and take that left guard position until Connor gets back. Now you've got Jason Peters thrown into the mix. Tyler Smith appears to be getting better by the game, as I guess you would hope for any rookie to be. But he's done a good job at left tackle. That doesn't mean that when Tyron Smith comes back, that Tyler Smith and God, did they have to draft another Smith with a tie in the beginning of his being the first syllable in his first name? But so it's going to be a work in progress, that offensive line, in terms of, again, when Tyron Smith comes back. Jason Peters, took, I believe, 14 snaps against the Giants. He'll probably get another handful of snaps, more, maybe up around the 20 range this week against Washington. And, does Jason Peters, then once he gets back into shape or in shape enough to go 65 plays, does he take over the left guard spot until Connor McGovern comes back, which should be very soon, by the way?
Defensively, as far as I'm concerned, this team continues to improve on a weekly basis. I mean, what they did in terms of pressuring Jones for New York last week and sacking him as many times as they did, extremely impressive, something that you haven't necessarily seen as much in the past. How good do you feel this defense can be, and how far do you think this could take them overall, considering that it, like I said, just keeps improving, it seems like, on a weekly basis?
Yeah, it really does. And last year they survived on takeaways. They led the NFL in takeaways last year. They were also very good on third down, right at the top of the league. Buffalo, I believe, was number one, and Dallas was number two. So I always say, if you give me two statistics that you want to lead in, and obviously points is kind of at number one, and we just moved that one away because we all know the idea is to keep the other team from scoring. But if you say my defense is going to take the ball away and they're going to get the other team off the field on third down, I would say we're going to win a lot of football games, and they have. Now, this year, obviously only 2 takeaways, but they've been playing, I think, better defense, but they just haven't taken the ball away as much. And I will tell you, takeaways, they never run year to year. So a team can be number one year and number 20 the next. Third down defense, things like that, stopping the run. Tampa's been a top 3 run defense, I think, for the last 4 or 5 years now. Buffalo the same way. So that carries over. Takeaways don't carry over. Sometimes the other team throws the ball to you. They don't hang on to it. And at the end of the year, you look up and say, wow, we just led the NFL in takeaways. And this year, the takeaways aren't coming, but I think the defense is actually playing better.
Babe, the entire time leading up to the beginning of the year, I'm sitting here saying there's no way this defense can replicate what they did last year. the loss of Randy Gregory, yes, that's a huge loss for the Cowboys. I didn't know how they were going to come back for it. You're not going to get the takeaways because, as you said, it doesn't translate all the time.
Right.
But this defense is playing just out of their minds. Is that because of Dan Quinn, or is that, just having the right personnel in there? Like, how is this defense able to sustain like this? Because most of the time, too, defense doesn't translate from year to year.
Well, Dan Quinn, I think, is a big part of it. However, you have to look. There's a lot of good coaches that if they don't have the personnel, offensively or defensively, you're going to struggle. Richard Saleh, who's up with the New York Jets, he was hired because San Francisco played such great defense, right? So that got him that head job with the New York Jets. Well, the problem is when he went to the Jets, they did not have 4 first-round draft picks as defensive linemen like San Francisco did. So he goes to the Jets, and in his first year, they gave up more yards and more points than any team in the NFL last year. So, that doesn't mean he's not a good coach, but clearly you have to have players to coach. Sean Payton, another example. New Orleans threw for the fewest yards in the NFL last year. Obviously, the first year without Drew Brees. So coaches are great, but they're even better when they have players to coach.
I think you're saying that as like you're looking at it from the player's perspective. That's the way you're looking at it.
Well, I just look at it. Hey, if I hire a guy, I remember when Urban Meyer said about Tom Herman, after Herman said, "Hey, I don't have a pixie dust," and Urban Meyer kind of got on Tom Herman about that comment. But there is no magic formula. Hey, you can be the best offensive coach in the world.
Sure.
If you guys can't throw it, run it, block it, catch it, you're not going to be productive. And you see that more so, I think, in the NFL than at the other levels.
Speaking of the ground game, how much more versatile do you see their ground game being with literally Zeke and Pollard as your 1 and 1A backs? And I mean, Zeke is, as last week he finally looked better, but Pollard has been tremendous so far. But you have 2 decent running backs, and to me, that could be a defensive coordinator's nightmare.
Well, Tony Pollard, I wish this was enlightening for you guys, but everybody wanted to see more of Tony Pollard last year. Sure. You didn't have to be a football savant to say, hey, this number 20 needs to touch the ball a little bit more.
Right.
And this year he is touching it more. And last year I think he was 5th in the NFL in yards per carry. This year he's getting a few more touches a game, takes a few away from Zeke. Zeke, even though he's a young man in real life, he's getting older in NFL parlance because the guy has had 2,000, catches and carries. That's a beating. You just figure every time, he on those 2,000 touches, he's getting the heck knocked out of him on 90% of those plays. The other part is just as damaging to the body. Zeke is a great pass protector. And, you're taking on a linebacker, 240, 250-pound linebacker with a head of steam, and you got to stone him. And that takes a toll on your body. So I think in the long run, the 2-back system that they are using now, which effectively they are, it's going to be good for Zeke.
Whenever we look at the Dallas Cowboys fan base, we can easily say that they're the greatest fan base in the history of mankind. What would you say is the worst fan base out there, and why is it the Philadelphia Eagles?
Well, Tip, you're going to have to define worst.
I mean, just because I know their fans are passionate, but they're just, horrible people.
Well, you live in the East. Every time we go to a game on the East Coast, especially Philadelphia, it's always gray, it's overcast, it's gloomy. And I just think the fan base there and the people of Philadelphia, they take on the personality of the weather, right? You go out to California, it's sunny. People are sunny, right? They're all in a good mood.
Hey, so I guess that makes sense. There we go. We got
I love it. So, okay. Lastly, I'm going to ask you, let's say I think they should take care of business, tomorrow against Washington. Boy, does that set up an intriguing game, Sunday Night Football at Philly here in a couple weeks. And everybody's saying Philly's the best team in the NFC, but I may say not so fast. I mean, hey, babe, tell you what, if Dallas wins and then, you got a 3-game winning streak going and defensively they look good again, I think that, it could be a good game in a couple weeks at Philly.
Well, that game, and then, of course, they've got the Rams next week. So it's Washington.
That's for 2 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, and then you go to L.A., and we'll see how the Rams are playing. We all saw them in the opener, and they did not look very good there. But that's a very talented team, as we well know. Their passing game is fantastic. Mm-hmm. Darnold can take over a football game, as we well know, from his defensive tackle position. So that's going to be, I mean, I know you want to get to Philly and that Sunday night game in a couple of weeks, but first you got to get through Washington, and then you got to go to LA and beat the Rams.
Sure. Good point.
Yeah, quit looking ahead, Brad.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Right.
Oh, we're going one game at a time. You're right. That's what you told me when I got to meet you. One game at a time.
Clearly, Brandon never coached. Could you imagine talking to a coach in the press conference saying, hey, looking at the Philadelphia game in 2 weeks, they would look at you like, what are you doing? They may not even know they're playing Philadelphia in 2 weeks.
Hey, there was one time I got to coach my daughter's YMCA basketball game, so it kind of counts. But I didn't look beyond that game, though, babe.
The one thing I want to do now, like I need to find a way to get Brandon to go up to New England and ask Bill Belichick what he thinks about the Week 16 opponent.
Right, there we go. He's on to Cincinnati.
Babe, thank you so much for joining us once again, ladies and gentlemen. Babe Laufenberg from the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network. You can tune in tomorrow on 95.5 KLAQ right here in El Paso. Check that game out as the Washington Commanders. Still got to get used to that.
I almost said it.
Are hosting the Dallas Cowboys. They're going to get beat down by the Dallas Cowboys.
Yes,
they better get beat down by the Dallas Cowboys. At least I have high expectations. A Super Bowl again this year. I'm not that type of fan, babe. Don't worry.
We'll see.
I love it. Right.
But thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for your computer help, too. I owe you.
Hey, you're the best. Thank you, babe. Good luck
Thank you,
tomorrow.
guys. Yes, sir. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Once
He
again,
thinks you're a genius. At least somebody thinks you're sharp.
hey, one person. That's all I needed. That's all I needed. Just one
Hey, you
person.
got him on. We got to see him, right?
Hey, that's important. And that's what I was thinking too. Is like, okay, I know how to translate it, but I don't know if you can translate my words.
I
to
mean,
him.
I was texting him and I was trying to help him. He's like, let's just do a phone call. And I'm like, well, I can't do a phone call. Let's just get you on. We'd like to hear your voice. You know, it's not as sexy as Tip's voice, but you know, I mean, hey, we'll be okay. Luckily, you helped him out, thankfully.
Even though we're good with technology, we don't have all that kind of technology.
Yeah, I'm still learning the technology. That's why I have you.
I'm loving what I'm seeing right now on ESPN. They have like the 4 grid of like all the games going on right now. I don't know if you saw the score or not, Brandon. Is TCU still dominating Oklahoma? Is all I want to know.
I didn't. Honestly, I didn't have it. I'll take a look and see what we got.
So we'll see what some of the scores are right now. Actually, you know what? I'll do that. You give us a recap of what you got to witness yesterday whenever you were covering football for Football Friday night, 600 ESPN El Paso. You can tune into those games now that the Chihuahuas have won, or you know, the season is over.
Yeah, they lost.
We can talk about that. They won
lost.
the division,
Yeah,
but in the 1-game playoff,
which is pathetic.
yeah, we'll talk about that later. But let us know what happened with high school.
So I was at the SAC. I covered the second game of the double header where Americus was playing Pebble Hills, and here Pebble Hills was 5-0, clearly the best team in the city. Hadn't been in any close games. Beat the likes of Coronado, Del Valle. This is a really good team, Cañetillo. And Americus is 1-4, and everyone's like, well, this is going to be an easy victory. Not so fast, said the Trailblazers. Let me tell you something. What a game last night for 4 quarters at the SAC. I mean, I'll tell you, first of all, the Pebble Hills QB Ochoa to his wide receiver. This young man, Boast, was unbelievable. 3 touchdowns, 79, I think 81 and 45 yards. But that was it. That was all of their offense throughout the night. They were like a one-trick pony. Americus ends up playing with them throughout the whole first half, and they take a 17-14 edge into the third quarter. And then they take a 23-14 lead off another score. Their quarterback, Moore, was unbelievable. Great running quarterback. Led the team on the ground. But the key to this one was the fourth quarter, where Americas just took over the game defensively. Let me tell you, as Pebble Hills was driving to go for the go-ahead score, remember, it's 23-21 at that point, and all they need is a field goal, to get hopefully a late victory for them. But then there's a couple sacks on America's part where their defense just absolutely stepped up, and they kind of get them on the fringe of field goal range. So they go for it on like a 4th and 16 at around the 35. And of course, Ochoa throws to Boast in the end zone. His bread and butter broken up. And then get this, it's about 5 minutes to go in the game. Americas runs the game out with their quarterback Moore, who gets 2 big plays going up the middle, keeper, boom, good night, Irene. So any given Friday in high school football, America's had a lot of talent going in, but they just hadn't been the record. You would have never thought they had a chance in this game, especially against a really good Pebble Hills team. But it was a wire-to-wire instant classic. It was a great game. It really was.
You got to love this time of year because all it is, Brandon, is just a football overdose just being injected into your veins. High school football, college football, the NFL. Right now at the half, 41-17 TCU over Oklahoma. I don't think anybody had that one thought of at all.
No, not at all.
And if you're the guy that bet TCU to beat Oklahoma, you are not safe right now. You cannot feel safe right now because there's a real possibility TCU can find a way to blow that game. Also, currently right now between number 14 Ole Miss and number 7 Kentucky, 22-19 Ole Miss with the lead in the third quarter. Let's talk UTEP real quick, man.
All right, let's do it.
All right. UTEP football, they had a win last week. Huge win on CBS Sports Network. They beat Boise State. They've got all the momentum in the world.
Yes.
Now they're going over to the East Coast where we've already mentioned it. They have a horrible record, arguably the worst record of all time. I said this Boise State win could be that signature win that every program needs to get better.
Mm-hmm.
Does UTEP have a legitimate shot of getting a winning streak going? That feels like a no.
I mean, look.
Are you really down and out on our UTEP Miners?
Well, no. I mean, but
aren't I supposed to be the one that's always, negative?
You're usually
Nancy?
a Debbie Downer, but I mean, the point is that I want to say yes, but why say yes or why say no when it feels so good to say yes? Remember that movie, Tommy Boy? Great movie. Anyways, I mean, sure they can. I mean, look, you get a win against a Boise State program, and that can do miracles for your program, especially when you don't ever beat a team of that magnitude. So the point is that though, can that transfer over to a win on the East Coast against a team that's nothing to write home about? I mean, should they win the game? Absolutely. But again, which team shows up? The one that lost to North Texas and didn't score in the second half, or the team that actually played 4 complete quarters in a virtually flawless game against the Broncos? So, I mean, my hope is that it's the team that played Boise State and that they can do that on the road. But, I mean, prove it to me. I mean, if they can win it at Charlotte, then they got something going. Prove it to me, though.
If UTEP doesn't win another game, but they beat New Mexico State, they beat Boise State, does that save Dana DeMille's job? And I always hate being that guy, but you have to ask that legitimate question. Yeah. Is his job still safe if they have another disappointing season? I know you made a bowl game last year,
right? But
it'll be 3 out of 4 years that you didn't make a bowl game, and you had very minimal wins. A lot of the wins that you look at last year could be, these are COVID wins. Should these things count? Blah, 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 right? Like you always have those types of detractors. The question that I'm going to ask, Brandon, is that enough? Because that's a huge signature win, and then you beat your rival. Yeah. Is that enough?
I feel that based on what they did last year, and again, we're talking about UTEP here, okay? Their winning seasons are few and far between. I could count them on one hand, and I've been religiously covering them since 2000, at least in my lifetime. You know what I mean? I feel that it was a big win. I mean, it was a good win. To me, you can grow off of that. But again, do you go back to being the most mediocre play caller out there, or do you keep calling the right plays and looking good offensively and doing the right things? I mean, I feel that his job is secure for now just because of what they accomplished last year. It would be kind of stupid, even if they continue to suck and let's say they don't win, but maybe 1 more game, 2 more games most, and you don't go make a bowl game, which is certainly a disappointing season. But ultimately, you have to look at the positive and what they did last year and hope that next year they can rebound and get enough recruits and whatnot. I mean, I'm just one that will look at the glasses half full here and say, give the guy a couple more years. I mean, you already put faith into him for an extension, for crying out loud.
Yeah, look at the glass half full. He's so nihilistic half the time. I look at the glass half full. Okay, so I looked at a couple of I'm going to give a couple of pictures, Brandon. You can tell me whether or not I'm right on these. I was wrong on the Miami Dolphins. I picked the Dolphins over the Bengals. Probably not the smartest of decisions, but hey, Tua got knocked out. Maybe that's my out, right?
Yeah.
I'm looking at the schedule right now, and I'm looking at games I think are just going to be absolutely horrible. The Seahawks and the Lions.
Oh, yeah. That's well, and I know that St. Brown is out, so that's not going to help golf at all.
I'm on Raw St. Brown.
Yeah. St. Brown.
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm on Raw.
I'm on Raw. I don't know. I'll take the Seahawks. I think
Seahawks
Geno Smith has been playing well.
Oh. Oh, because I remember at the beginning of the season being told how horrible I am because I said that Geno Smith was going to have a decent game and a decent season.
He's been decent so far. I'll give you that.
He's got targets, man.
He does have targets. You have Metcalf and you have the other kid Lockett. So yeah, he's got Penny's a good pass receiving running back too. So yeah, I mean, I all over Seattle winning that game.
The Jets and the Steelers.
Well, their quarterback's coming back for the Jets. The Steelers are terrible. They have no offense. I'd say the Jets. What the heck?
I'm about to say, I like as much as I want to be out on Mitch Trubisky, I think I've dug a deep enough hole. And it's the Jets, man.
Yeah, it's the Jets. But they're, you know what? Pittsburgh is not impressing me at all. They really aren't. I'll take the Jets.
The more you look at this week's schedule, it is
garbage.
Horrible.
Yeah, a lot of crappy games.
Browns and Falcons.
Oh, that's going to be good. Oh, that could be a good game, though. I think that
I think you're just drinking the NFL's Kool-Aid right now.
I like the Browns. I think but it should be, to me, that's going to be a possibly high-scoring game. The Falcons usually get in the high-scoring games. Chubb would be, he's been their bread and butter. I mean, Brissett's been decent. And how about Cooper? His career may be rejuvenated. I mean, it wasn't ever not rejuvenated, but 2 100-yard-plus games in the last 2 weeks. He hasn't done that since 16. I like what the Browns are doing offensively. I think the Browns win that game at Atlanta.
They should win that game because Atlanta's an absolute dumpster
fire. They're garbage. Yeah.
The reason why, Brandon, I'm actually looking forward to this just garbage slate of football.
Some of the games are going to be good.
You've heard me say it all the time. Bad football teams playing bad football teams equals a great game.
Equals a 35-34 game.
Yeah, it's going to be spin out. And one team will find a way to lose at the end.
Totally.
The Jags and the Eagles. This is going to be an interesting game to me because I actually kind of like what Jacksonville is doing right now.
Absolutely.
That defense is real.
And you know what? They are coming of age. I love Doug Peterson. He is going to do wonders for Trevor Lawrence. And Christian Kirk has been amazing. Their running game, Robinson, has been rejuvenated. I could see easily, I'm going to take the Jaguars. I think that's Philadelphia's toughest game so far. I like Jacksonville. What do you think about that, huh? Sorry, couldn't help.
We'll see you tomorrow.
No, you're right. I mean, he's right. You'll see tomorrow. But I think Jacksonville goes into Philly. I think that game's in Philly, right? Yeah, I think they win in Philly.
So far, you played the Lions and the Vikings and the Commanders. But
he's right, though. You would have thought it's somebody else besides you.
No, I mean, if you just say that, the Lions, the Vikings, the Commanders,
oh my,
and the Jaguars. None of those teams are perennially good teams. All those teams are garbage.
Yeah, but the Jags are, to me, the Jags are going to be much better this year. I think so far, definitely. They could win the AFC South.
Puga's saying that he thinks the Lions are better than what people have said the Lions are. The Lions are going to win 4 games this year, which for the Lions is better than what most people have them at.
It's better than one.
So, yeah, it's the coming out party of the Detroit Lions. But, I mean, the Eagles should have, in a normal year, they should be 4-0. That should be maybe the challenge would have been Minnesota, but Kirk Cousins. That's all you got to say. Kirk Cousins in prime time. Yep. That's all you needed was that. And there was no way that was going to happen, right? I also kind of like this. I'm afraid to pick the Jaguars now just because I feel like I'm hyping them up so much that the Eagles are going to go in there because Jalen Hurts is the truth.
Oh, yeah. I love that kid. Are you kidding? Well, boy, give him some weapons.
Yeah.
See what he can do.
See what happens now that he's got actual guys that catch the ball, not like what the Eagles had last year.
A.J. Brown has been huge. Boy, has A.J. Brown been a significant increase there.
You have no idea how mad I was. I was at the NFL draft. Just being surrounded by all the pure happiness to see that the Titans traded him. I was like, okay, that's fine. To Philadelphia.
Stupid.
I was like, of all the damn things, and we had just gotten rid of Amari Cooper.
Yeah, thanks.
For a bucket of ice.
And
basically what the Cowboys got.
Talk about Cowboys receivers. Would CeeDee Lamb catch every damn thing thrown at him? That was the worst drop ever.
He had 2 of those bad drops on Monday night.
He does that, and I hate it. It pisses me off. Great receivers don't drop balls. They just don't. Once in a blue moon, but not like that. You could have caught that ball.
No.
No, you wouldn't. I know. You would have dropped.
I wouldn't have been that.
But it's the analogy, though. It's the whole point of it, man.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're right, Brandon. I would have
scored.
I would have housed it.
I would have taken it to the house because I'm that fast.
And it's so frustrating with CeeDee Lamb because you saw him drop those 2 easy in the breadbasket and then makes that one-handed catch to seal the game.
Yeah, and that was nice. And of course, how about the end zone catch? That was beautiful. That wasn't the one in the end zone.
Yeah, one-handed.
That was beautiful. That was nice.
A one-handed tutty.
That was cool. The one-handed touchdown. I'll say touchdown. I won't say that other word.
Why would you say tutty?
Tutty.
It's a tutty.
Tutty.
Yeah, it's how Gronk and Brady. You know me, I'm all about
I
anything
got your
Brady.
tutty.
Also, it's too early for me to be like all these other people detracting that Tom Brady should have retired last year.
No, you don't say.
He's 45, man.
I mean, you know.
Can the man not have a bad month?
I'm so glad I drafted him. What an idiot I am, you know. I'm such a moron. I should have drafted Jackson in all my leagues. Didn't we tell your boy to draft Jackson?
We did.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
And I bet his team's doing all right.
no, our team, because I am the general manager of the team.
And how's your team?
Yeah, I'm a co-owner on that team.
What's
We
your
are
team?
3-0.
Okay. Not and I'm 3-0.
And our games have not been close.
And my non-PPR team is 3-0 because I have Jackson. So if you have Lamar Jackson, you're probably doing well in fantasy.
I want to
football.
bring up the fantasy team just so it could be a refresher.
I just thought about that because I remember we said Lamar Jackson. Yeah,
it could be a refresher to you of who is on this team with Hawk, Scott, and myself. Hawk doing great thing. Hawk actually wanted to fly me out on the 7th of October for a high school football game since he's out in Santa Anita, California.
That's cool.
To go be out there for like the number 1 and number 2 teams in the country playing
cool.
football against
That's
each
cool.
other. Oh, it'd be a completely.
But you'll be preoccupied.
Yeah, I will be in Dallas. We
Dallas.
will be in Dallas.
We will be at the Rangers and Yankees game next Wednesday, hopefully seeing Judge hit number 62.
With the way it's looking, with everyone walking him, yeah.
I mean, hey, it's ironic that we're both going to be there for the last game of the season, and Judge is going to be in town.
Well,
I'm
and for a game that wasn't even supposed to be played.
I know.
Because that's a makeup. They have a doubleheader the day before.
It is a makeup, isn't it?
It's a whole makeup series because they had gotten rained out, or
we got
there's
lucky.
something going
Is
on.
that what you're trying to say? We got lucky.
So the fantasy team.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, CeeDee Lamb, Gabe Davis, Dawson Knox, Jared Judy. For some reason, Hawk picked up the Giants defense, which I think is stupid.
What a putz.
Ryan Suckup, our kicker, J.K. Dobbins, Tom Brady, Carter from the Jets, Stevenson from the Patriots, and then Elijah Moore from the Jets as well. Not feeling all that. I think I might want to get rid of the Giants defense because it's the Giants, and we saw what the Dallas Cowboys did to them.
Sure.
So I
like your team, man. You got a real shot of taking it all.
Oh,
I'll tell you my team with Jackson. This is my non-PPR really quick. I think it's a decent team. I like it. I mean, I like I said, 3-0 is 3-0 any way you look at it. Obviously, I have Lamar Jackson as my QB, Delvin Cook. I have Fournette, Kupp, Brown, Hollywood, Njoku, Koo, and the Cowboys defense. And then my bench, Tua, Zeke, Hunt, Samuel from Washington, Godwin, Goddard from the Eagles, and the Bears defense.
Can you say Koo's first name for me, please?
Hold on a minute. Let me just pull up his name. Okay, ready? It's Young Shu. Is it how you say it?
Young Choi.
Young Choi.
Young Choi.
You
Koo.
knew I was going to say Young Shu, didn't you?
I did.
I
actually thought you were going to say Young Ho.
I got your Young Ho. You're my best buddy. I love you. I ain't got nothing but love for you. But I'm going to miss you the next 2 weeks, although I am going to try to join you from LA or from wherever.
So Brendan is going on a hiatus. He will be also studying with Kyler Murray to try to teach him how to actually study and read and, learn playbooks and all the stuff that he should know. So we will be missing Brandon over the next couple of weeks. We'll see if we have someone come in and, be here in your stead. We'll see about all that. But again, we're out here, Undisputed Craft House, 1881 Saul Kleinfeld, coming out here for the thick boy pies, $15 pies. You can't beat them. I mean, they are phenomenal. They're big. They're
the best pies.
They're big and juicy is what I was about to say.
Just like you. Sorry.
100%.
I love you.
We'll see you all next week.
Bye, guys.
I can't think of a